If you were just to focus on one thing in your business, what would it be? I think as business owners, all of us should be able to answer this. I know personally what the best thing is that I can work on that will move the dial of our business. And we turn over $1.5 million in turnover every year. And for reference, only 15% of businesses turn over $1 million. And it's a psychological target that a lot of Kiwi businesses aim for, but it often comes back to doing the things that are going to get you there. Now, not all of us are aiming for high levels of revenue. Through the work that we do at Next Advisory, where we help aspirational businesses get closer to their goals, often their goals are to be more profitable, which doesn't always mean increasing your revenue and scaling it and making sure that it's the most you can ever get to. It actually means making the business more efficient from a margin perspective so that it can drop out more profit, turn that profit into cash, and you then have the cash, which then gives you options of what you would like to do with that cash. Now, secondly, you want to think about what it is that you would like to do in the business. And that's where we often teach businesses to think about their ideal day. If you were to get up and have your ideal day as a business owner, what would it be that you were doing in that day? You need to start to understand these things, because otherwise you're going to turn up into your business and you're just going to do a whole lot of different things around the place to then say, well, I had a busy day at work today. You're not working anymore. You're building an asset. So much like a builder would go to a house, they would have a plan of what they're going to do, how they're going to put it together, and they would work through methodically building that house based on the plan. Now, being a business owner, it's no different for you as well. You want to picture what the finished house looks like for you, i.e. your business, or the type of feeling you would like your business to give to you, and then build a plan to go about executing that plan. If you just move around inside your business and inside the job site, you'll find that there's always something to do, but the house, i.e. the business, may not get built. So to start with, you have to visualize what is it that you would like this business to give to you. Now, insight for most of the businesses that we work with that are paying us thousands of dollars to do paid consulting with them, they want to make more profit and have more time to do things that they've always wanted to do. And often these are things that they wanted to do when they started their business. But no, now we are stuck not having the time to be able to do those because we're doing all of these little micro tasks that popped up inside our business that we never really set out to do to start with. So the key point here is that you want to think about what it is that the business needs from you the most. What is the activity? What is the task? What is the input that this business needs from you to deliver to you the outputs that you would like to have? So start by working out what the output is that you want, and then think about doing the right inputs to get that output. To give you a simple explanation, we have a client who rings their past customers, and they turn this into a routine and a process. Why? Well, because they once did it randomly and it led to an output. Now, when we were doing some coaching with them, we could see that input created this output. Well, why don't we do more of that input? For them, they went and did what the customer or client wanted them to do. So we were saying, well, actually, no, the input that you need to focus on is ringing more of these clients and these past customers. So that's exactly what they do. And then they dial up the input and then the output increases. So then we turn it into a process. How routinely are we going to do this? Now, we have another client who has then systemized this even further, where they go back and they monitor how long it has been since they last spoke to their various customers and clients. And once it goes past a certain time frame, then the input for them is, I better check back in with them, have a conversation, see what they've got going on. Now, you can take this and model this in your business as well and think about what inputs are going to drive your outputs. So to start with, you want to think about what has worked well in your business versus what hasn't worked well. Now, if you can stick to what has worked well, then you can do more of that and you should get more of what it is that you actually want to get. Now, the problem for a lot of business owners is that that is actually too simple and it's too boring. Now, business owners, especially entrepreneurial business owners, which I'll talk to you about very soon, don't really like that. They would rather get involved in this AI thing, this shiny object, talking to that person, launching this service, launching this product. Oh, I saw them doing that. Maybe I should do that too. Oh, I'm going to need this platform, this subscription, and I'll do all of that, and then I'll have all of this stuff. And then we're going to sit there and go, is that even what you wanted? No. Why don't we ring back the past customers or do the thing that was actually moving the needle of the business? Now, entrepreneurial-minded business owners really, really do struggle with this because entrepreneurial business owners, they like building things. And so once they build something that is kind of working and working well enough, they're often tempted to go and build the next thing. So that's where they do get caught at looking all of these different things that they could be doing. So instead of ringing the people that have engaged with their last LinkedIn post, they will then go and do another LinkedIn post. But really, the people that they would like to speak to have already engaged with it, and they could just call them or reach out to them. That is the thing that's going to move the needle. The 10 messages to the 10 people that have engaged with the post, not just doing another LinkedIn post, hoping that one day one of these people get back in touch with them. So this happens a lot as well when we get a service or a good working quite well, and then we see a competitor and see what they are doing and think, okay, well, maybe we could offer that too. Then before we know it, we've had a meeting about it, we've gone on building out a website or a landing page about it, or inquiring with a manufacturer about how to do that product, when really we have something else in our business that is already working, the good or service that we know is profitable at a good margin. Why aren't we trying to sell this to more people? Now, unfortunately, part of this, we believe, comes down to that scarcity thinking. We think that we have really lifted every rock to see if the buyer is there for our good or service. But if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of the time we haven't. Now, one of the things that I personally do to remind myself of this is often I'll drive past streets where there are a number of businesses and I think, wow, none of these are clients of Next Advisory. That's a reminder for me that I haven't knocked on all of their doors, I haven't got marketing to them, I haven't spoken to those business owners, and guess what else? There's a shitload of businesses out there. If every one of them on the street don't even use us as an accountant, and it's one street of the country, imagine how many businesses are out there. So we have to use reminders to ensure that we understand we're not really doing the volume or lifting all of the rocks that we often think we are. If we were doing that, I would say most of us would have more opportunity that we could even handle. So for a lot of us, we actually need to focus on the main thing that is going to bring in the work or bring in the outcomes that you want in your business, but we're running from them and hiding from them. Why are we doing that? Well, maybe it's rejection as well. We're worried about the fact that we may get a no. But realistically, you can't get into business and expect not to accept rejection. The business owners that we work with that we see doing really well and often ending up into the top tax bracket and becoming top income earners in this country and also top taxpayers to pay for the superannuation cost of the country, they are out there hustling and they are getting no's and they are shrugging it off and going, okay, they don't need my services, that's fine. They don't need me to help them. I'll go find somebody who does need my help. But for a lot of business owners who struggle, they will make reasons as to why they can't do that and how they once asked this person and they didn't get a yes. And so it was really confronting that time and they better refine the pitch or change up the website or the branding or get my car branded first before I go back and knock on the door. Go and talk to the person that you need to be interacting with. So try and unpack for yourself, why is it that you are so confronted by rejection? And this is what we also ask business owners to do, is step into the person who isn't. So if you are uncomfortable with rejection, why don't you look at yourself as a person who isn't scared of rejection? So you've got to change who you are and your identity. Now, often to go to another level of your business chapter and your business journey and your business iteration, you have to become a different version of yourself. Think about how far you've already come as a business owner and then how far you will go. We constantly need to step into the next version of ourselves that would run the business differently. So using the rejection piece as an example, if you were worried about rejection, well, the perfect framing for you would be to accept that you can't be. And so what would somebody who isn't afraid of rejection, what would they do? So ask yourself that. Now, the same thing, I'm sure there's been things in your business that you've had to become a different person to do it. It might have been the first tough conversation, might have been making the first hire, might have been ringing the person who hasn't paid your invoice, might have been increasing your fees or your prices. You had to become a different version of yourself in order to do that. Now, to do that, you had to change your identity and become that person. You had to become the person that picked up the phone, who chased the unpaid invoice, who hired the person and risked their future revenue, but believed in themselves that they could get that revenue and therefore could hire that person. Whatever it is that you've had to do, you've actually already gone through this process. So some of the things that you're currently struggling with in your business right now simply comes down to the fact that you're not ready to become the next version of yourself that you actually know that you need to be, and you also know that you can be it. So why is it that you're not willing to do that? Well, it probably comes back to comfort. So you have to have strong goals and strong reasons to allow you to go and do that. This is why planning and goal setting is so important, to then give you something that's going to pull you towards it and then ensure that you're forced to become a different version of the business owner. Now, recently we've been working with a lot of people in the trade space or different businesses where they have to understand their margin. And for a lot of businesses around the country, including construction, margin has been squeezed. Now, also for a lot of these business owners, they don't do any form of back costing. So they don't know what is the margin on the product or the service that they have been offering. They've just been too busy doing the things inside the business, as we talked about at the start of this. So what they need to do to become the next version of themselves is actually have a process where they review and back cost the jobs that they did do. What was the sales? What was the cost? Therefore, what was our gross profit? Now, can we check that gross profit as a percentage compared to our overall sales and costs of our business to see was it under or over the average? Now, if we can increase that margin as well, then we are going to become more profitable. So that may mean keeping an eye on your costs, or it may be pricing things better, or doing more of the profitable work that you really should be doing. So to wrap this whole thing up, what the business owner can tend to do is, I'm going to launch this new product or do this new shiny thing that my competitor is doing, and I think there's heaps of margin in it, but I don't really know, but I'm going to go and do it and offer it anyway. And then it turns out that there's not as much margin in that as the thing that really got them to where they already were. So we've got to take them away from that and get them back to doing more of the thing that got the business profitable and doing well in the first place. But that can be a little bit boring, especially for those entrepreneurial business owners. So it is very, very key to find those things that are going to give your business sustainability and longevity. And these are typically goods or services that have a good level of margin in them that the market wants. The market doesn't want what you want to give it, it wants what it wants. So you have to listen to your customer and understand what the data is telling it. I had a client recently who was doing a number of things on the side, and they were telling me about the total revenue that those were creating. And then when we started to break it down, it was very clear that one of those four things was driving nearly 90% of their income. That is the market telling them that that one thing is actually what the market wants. So then we started to talk about scaling that up. Now, do we want to scale it up? We have that conversation. But to do that, what is the input that's going to be required to get that output? Because they'd already got some revenue and got product market fit. So now we can increase the prices if we want to, but what else could we do to go and get more of that work? We already know what's let it in, so now we can rely on that data to go and do more of that to then get more of the output that we are looking for. So to challenge you, what is an input that you know will lead to an output? What is something that you know that if you do more of that in your business, it will lead to the things that you want? And why aren't you doing it? Have a confronting conversation with yourself and slowly start to become that person that is willing to do it. And when I say slowly, I mean next week. Actually, let's just speed this whole thing up. Why can't you just step tomorrow into being that person that is willing to do it? If you want those outcomes, you're probably going to have to become the next version of yourself. So think about what that best version of you is to the business and start doing more of the activities that that person would do.